Chris Metzen, he's regretting the fact that it was called Warcraft because the name Warcraft does not appeal to the target audience that Blizzard is chasing today. Most likely you guys have seen what has been trending in the World of Warcraft community. There was an interview with some of the Blizzard devs over on thegamebusiness.com where they talked about several different topics like World of Warcraft's audience changing over time and player housing and Blizzard's relationship to other MMOs and stuff. But there was this one particular bit that people really zoned in on, a particular comment that Chris Metzen made that made people very upset, very angry, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. But also I want to talk about some of the other stuff that they discussed in the interview, and I want to talk about a long-dreaded topic that, you know, people have been asking my opinions on this for a while, and I know I'm going to kick a hornet's nest. I'm well aware that I'm about to do it. But, you know, I see these comments popping up all the time in my YouTube comment section talking about how woke World of Warcraft is, and I'm going to share my opinions on that. So, first and foremost, what is this dreaded quote that everybody has been retweeting, everybody has been talking about? It is this. I have it saved right over here. I'm going to give you a little context beforehand. Chris Metzen and friends, they are talking about the fact that they really want to expand the World of Warcraft IP. They don't just want World of Warcraft to be limited to the MMO anymore, I guess, in their mind, and Hearthstone and such. They want World of Warcraft to be bigger. They want the Warcraft IP to be as large as possible. So maybe they're hinting at television shows or more movies or just spin-off games or something. I mean, how cool would it be to have like a single-player role-playing game set in the Warcraft universe? I mean, I would absolutely love that. I don't know about you guys, but I think that'd be great. But that's kind of what they're talking about here. And Chris Metzen makes this comment, and it's the comment that everybody is losing their minds over. But I feel like we should read it in that context. So what is this dreaded quote? Well, it actually comes from Holly. So it's Holly. You guys might know her from the World of Warcraft team. She's talking about something that Chris Metzen said. So here's the full quote. She says, "It's a fantastic IP. In my humble opinion, it's been underutilized, and I just want to bring it to as many people as possible. And that means evolving what Warcraft means, what it is and where it's going. We want it to be approachable. Chris Metzen sometimes is like, I wish we hadn't called it Warcraft. It sounds intimidating," unquote, on the Chris Metzen bit. But I'm like, nobody really thinks that about Warhammer. It's an understood name. And that's the quote. That's the thing that everybody is tweeting out, because there's two things in there that everybody is freaking out over. So the first thing is the fact that Holly, this, you know, in many people's opinion, this kind of relatively, you know, this newcomer, this filthy newcomer to Blizzard Entertainment in the grand scheme of things, is talking about how World of Warcraft needs to change with time. The Warcraft name, the brand, the whatever, it needs to evolve, she's saying. It needs to change so that way it can be better utilized in the future and the Warcraft IP can be expanded to other things. And that's the first thing that people are freaking out about. People are saying, like, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, like, don't change what Warcraft means. Keep Warcraft, Warcraft. And if that's not bad enough, then you have Chris Metzen himself making this comment saying, oh, I wish we hadn't have called it Warcraft because it's a little too intimidating. And people, of course, are upset about that because, first of all, it's Chris Metzen saying it. Chris Metzen is kind of like in some people's minds, Chris is like the father of WoW. He is like, and also he kind of like embodies in people's like enchantment. He embodies the Warcraft spirit. You know, he created all that old art of Warcraft back in the day, those pencil drawings of like orcs cutting off human heads and stuff. And, you know, he added like the badass metal element to World of Warcraft and the Warcraft universe. And so to have Chris Metzen himself, holy Chris Metzen, saying, oh man, I wish we hadn't have called it Warcraft because, you know, that name's a little too intimidating for like, you know, the average consumer or whatever. That is definitely pissing people off because it almost feels like I get the impression based on all the comments that I'm reading on X and stuff that people kind of see it as like a betrayal or not like a betrayal, but it's almost like a, Chris Metzen took a very long break from World of Warcraft, a very, very long break. And people felt that when he left the company, World of Warcraft like declined dramatically in quality. This is when, you know, in people's minds, like after Chris left, this is when World of Warcraft became more woke. He was the guy keeping Warcraft like, or maintaining the target audience of Warcraft, meaning, you know, young men, you know, probably between the ages of like 15 to like maybe 35 or so. Like he was the guy like keeping Warcraft, like the tone alive, and he leaves. And, you know, people feel the game goes down, and then he comes back, and there's this hope that so many people had that like, okay, now Chris is back. Now we're actually going to see like Warcraft return to its roots. Now we're going to start seeing more artwork again of, you know, orcs cutting off night elf heads and, you know, the violence and the war. We're going to see war return to World of Warcraft with Chris. And so this is why many people are very disheartened, and their spirits are kind of broken by this comment, because to see Chris Metzen, who is supposed to be like the champion of Warcraft, saying, oh, well, like I kind of wish that we hadn't have called it Warcraft, so that way we don't know the full context of why he said this, but I'm assuming because of the question that Chris Metzen probably has the same mentality that Holly's talking about here, where Chris, he wants to take Warcraft and he wants to put it in front of like an audience of people that normally wouldn't play video games. Like they never played Warcraft 1, 2, or 3 back in the day. You know, an audience of people that, do I have a mana potion by chance? Yes, I do. There we go. Wasn't paying attention. You know, an audience of people that don't know anything about Warcraft and don't care anything about Warcraft. And so, you know, and he probably feels that the Warcraft name is, I mean, in his own words, he says it sounds too intimidating. I personally don't find Warcraft to be an intimidating name. I actually agree with Holly, where she's like, no, like it's funny that like Holly, who, you know, some people really don't like her, she's kind of being the voice of reason here, saying like, Chris, what are you talking about? Like people love, you know, Warhammer, like Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40K. You know, they're not like too intimidated by it that they don't, you know, step away from it or whatever, or they avoid it. Like people love Warhammer. I understand why people are upset. And, you know, honestly, I kind of like, if Chris Metzen has embraced the new tone of World of Warcraft that has come out over the past few years, I can understand why he's even making this comment of like, oh, I don't like that it's called Warcraft. World of Warcraft today has a dramatically different tone compared to the Warcraft of yesterday. This is something that Blizzard even sort of talks about in this article, because in the article, two things, one thing, and then we'll return to the second thing. One of the things that they talk about is it's the disconnection between the modern World of Warcraft player base and the classic community. Longdale, someone at Blizzard, says, classic players are completely different for the most part than modern players. They behave differently. They want different things. We don't have a whole lot of crossover between both games. I thought that comment was very fascinating for me, just because the fact that you're saying like, oh, we don't have a lot of crossover between classic and like the modern game, I think it shows like how far like these two visions of World of Warcraft are from each other. Because you would think that like the classic player would love to play the modern World of Warcraft game. You know, it's that same tone, it's that same vibe, it's that same Warcraft experience, but with better mechanics and better graphics and better gameplay and stuff, yada, yada, yada. And you would think that the modern WoW player would love classic. You know, they're getting the same thing that they experience in retail WoW, but they're kind of getting like a simpler, humbler version of it in this 2004 to 2000 and whatever version of World of Warcraft. But the thing is, that's not the case. In fact, what you do have is this almost like intense tribalism that exists between the classic WoW community and the retail WoW community. And it's not surprising if you're someone like me that you've been playing World of Warcraft for many years. This is not surprising at all, because when you play modern WoW and you look at like the game and its philosophy and its tone, we're going to talk about the tone more in a second. Like, you see just how dramatically different it is from the Warcraft of yesterday, of like 2004 and stuff. If Chris Metzen has fully embraced this new tone of World of Warcraft, it is not surprising why he would say that, oh, I kind of wish that World of Warcraft was not called Warcraft. Because, I mean, here's the thing. Like, really think about this for a second. Like, kind of put on your marketing hats for a moment. I mean, I work in marketing. And, like, watch the recent cinematic that Blizzard put out for Midnight. You know, the player housing one, where you see, like, this kind of giggly, happy, almost, you know, college-age blood elf girl doing a little dance, and then, like, going to the Horde neighborhood, and, you know, it's very lighthearted and cheerful as all the orcs and the Tauren and the friends are running around, like, being all cute, building their homes and stuff. Imagine you show that to someone who has never heard of Warcraft before. They have no idea what Warcraft is. They know nothing about it. And you show them that cinematic. And then at the end of it, you tell them, oh, this is called Warcraft. There's a complete disconnect. Warcraft, the title alone, the name of the franchise alone, like, immediately invokes a target audience of young men, you know, like striplings and men kind of, again, like maybe in like their 30s or something, you know, kind of like that age range of males, dudes that are interested in like war games and conflict. Like, Warcraft implies battle. It implies war, obviously. War implies violence. Violence implies like picking a side, like, you know, who are we fighting for on the battlefield? You know, Warcraft in like the name alone inspires things like the exploration of themes like honor and virtue and heroic sacrifice and blah, blah, blah. I can go on and on this, but the point is, like, this is something that old Warcraft, whether it's Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, and like, you know, the classic WoW trilogy, you know, classic TBC Wrath, it explored this perfectly. It was perfectly in line with the name. You had the faction conflict between the Horde and the Alliance. Occasionally, the Horde and the Alliance reluctantly have to work together to fight some greater threat that is getting in the way of their war, aka like the Lich King, for example, Archimonde in Warcraft 3 and the Burning Legion. Perfect. It's totally on brand. You know, you have a massive overrepresentation of men in World of Warcraft back in the day. Yes, you have some female characters in there. You got Tyrande, for example. You got Jaina Proudmoore, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, back in the day, men have an extreme amount of overrepresentation in old Warcraft compared to women. You know, you even have like the bikini armors, you know, and stuff back in the day, because shockingly, you know, young boys and men, they really like titties. They really like big bouncing asses and stuff. So of course you're going to have, you know, the chainmail bikini armor and stuff. Old Warcraft knew exactly who their target audience was, like both with the game and how they designed it, and even with like the title of the franchise itself, Warcraft. But you compare that to World of Warcraft today. You know, when people pop up in the comment sections and they say things like World of Warcraft's tone has changed over the years, World of Warcraft is very clearly like more pandering towards a female audience, a more liberal audience. World of Warcraft is not exploring like masculine themes like it used to back in the day. World of Warcraft isn't putting out stuff like this. This is the book Rise of the Horde, where you got a picture of like this badass image of Grom Hellscream on the front, you know, big tusks, freaking red fire coming out of his mouth, like something that a teenage boy would look at and be like, yeah, that's fucking awesome. You know, like Blizzard's not doing stuff like that anymore. World of Warcraft is not the same that it was yesterday. That World of Warcraft very clearly has a very different target audience today. And this article in particular, you know, just kind of adds further fire to that. Like, it almost seems like Blizzard, you know, you have someone like Chris Metzen being almost like he's regretting the fact that it was called Warcraft, because the name Warcraft does not appeal to the target audience that Blizzard is chasing today. Now, who is the target audience of World of Warcraft? I think it's pretty obvious. But let me preface by saying something real fast. Blizzard is a business, and World of Warcraft is their cash cow product that they are using to make more money for their business. So Blizzard is going to make and design World of Warcraft around an audience that they believe is going to swipe the credit card the most. Blizzard is not going to build their game around an audience of people that's not going to make them more money. It's just that's just a simple fact. And so when you look at World of Warcraft today, and when you say things like, oh, why is there so much, like why are women so overrepresented in modern WoW? Why is Blizzard filling the game with all these like liberal ideas and sometimes like woke politics and stuff, people will call it. I'll come back to that because I mean, I got some opinions on that because I don't fully agree with that. But again, I'll come back to that in a second. Like, why is the game like pandering to like this audience of people so much? I'll tell you why. Because they swipe the credit card. Because they're the ones that make Blizzard money. Because they're the ones that buy the WoW token. They're the ones that will go out of their way to swipe the credit card to get like traders tenders, so that way they can get new transmogs and stuff. It's because of that. You know, there's a meme that floats around, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's this meme where like ladies will post it sometimes on social media, and like a lady will say something like, "Is this really all it takes for a guy to be happy?" And it's like a picture of an apartment, and it's completely empty, but there's a mattress on the ground and a computer and like a refrigerator. And ladies will be like, what the hell? Like, is this all it takes to make a man happy? And all the dudes in the comment section are saying like, oh, hell yeah, dude, that guy's got a fucking setup. Like, that's great, man. Place to sleep, place to game, and a place to put his food. Like, all you need is a good toilet. And like, there you go. Like, you know, you are living the life. And people are like blown away by this, you know, and it's you probably have seen the image. You probably know what I'm talking about. If not, just look it up. But the thing is like, yeah, like, you know, MMOs primarily, like, you know, being objective here, being realistic, MMOs primarily nowadays just make their money out of like creating stupid collectibles that people can pay money for and that they can buy. You know, stupid collectibles that Blizzard like hides behind like these massive grinds and stuff to keep you subscribed to the game for months and months on end. But the thing is, like, there are tons of dudes out there, and I myself am one of those people. There are tons of guys out there that don't fucking care about that. Like, for me, I've never been a mount collector personally. I never have been, because I've already got the two best mounts in the game. You know, on modern WoW, number one best ground mount in the game, Baron Rivendare's Death Charger. I got it back in the day. Okay, so I don't need a new ground mount. Like, you can introduce like a big stupid rideable alligator with like rockets for feet, and I don't give a fuck. Like, because I've already got the best ground mount in the game, bro. In regards to the best, like, you know, flying mount in the game, dude, I got that freaking frost worm that you get for doing all the achievements in Ice Crown Citadel. So I got the undead horse, and I got the undead dragon. I've got the two best mounts in the game. I don't need any more. I don't need your stupid bumblebee mount. I don't need your stupid fucking fox mount. Like, I don't fucking need that. But you know who does need that? Some young lady, or like some effeminate man who's like, oh, a bee mount, a bumblebee. In regards to transmogs, dude, I've got like the freaking like Death Knight Ulduar tier 8 set, bro. Like, it's like one of the best Death Knight sets in the game, if not like the best. Like, you need nothing else. It's freaking the Death Knight tier 8 set from Ulduar, and then you disable the helmet and you turn off cape, or maybe you can find a cool cape, but that's pretty much it. Like, I've got the best transmog in the game, got the best ground mount, I got the best flying mount. Nothing else is necessary in retail WoW for me. Although I would really like to get the Headless Horseman mount, just because I've been trying to get the Headless Horseman mount ever since like it was first introduced to Classic all those years ago, and I still don't have it to this day. Granted, I've kind of been lazy about it the past like 2 or 3 years. Like, this year I kind of spent like all of like Halloween, like, or during that time I was up in Michigan spending time with my family. But point is, one day I'll get like the Headless Horseman mount, and then my true mount grinding and all that stuff will end. And I know there's some people listening to this, and they are so like in that, like, I guess, collector mind. They might be like sitting there like, oh shit, hold on a second, bros. We got a young, delicious blood elf lady sitting here. Hold on, we have to say hello to her. I think she's AFK. She was hiding clearly in the bush to try to protect herself, but she didn't realize. Oh wow, she is strong. Holy Toledo, bro. Oh, she's healing herself. Oh, shiz. Oh, dude, she's tough. Damn, man. Holy crap. How much damage was that? She hit me for 331 damage for just a standard auto attack. Damn, dude, that's like a third of my health in one hit. Holy crap. Well, that was embarrassing. Anyway, well, granted, she was a level higher than me, so I guess it was a fair duel, a fair fight, yes. Now, this is what Warcraft's all about, man. Just, going and killing people and having honorable duels out in Stranglethorn Vale. But anyway, the point is, like, people probably just listen to what I just said about the whole, like, mount collecting crap, and they are so, like, in that mode of mind of, like, oh, that's all World of Warcraft is nowadays. It's all about, like, collecting, like, shiny keys and stuff. They're probably like, dude, what the hell are you even looking for from World of Warcraft then? If you're not like a mount collector or a transmog collector or like a pet collector, what the heck do you even get out of this game? Like, why do you even play it? And it's like, bro, I'm here for like the epic story. Bro, I'm here for the epic characters. I'm here for the world. Okay, I'm here for the world. I'm here for the story. I'm here for the faction conflict. Like, I'm the dude that shows up when I hear, like, I'm playing Ashvin right now. When I hear that my alliance, like, homies are like, dealing with shit, like on some corner of the world, like some hoarders showing up, making trouble, I'm the dude who shows up regardless of level. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to fight with you guys. Like, we're going to drive these guys out. I mean, fuck these guys. And if I'm playing the Horde, it's the same thing. Like, that's what I'm looking for from World of Warcraft. And that's not something that a developer can really give me. Like, they can't put that on a store or whatever, and they can't make money off of that. So therefore, they're not going to make the game around me, obviously. Anyway, all right, I kind of lost my train of thought of where I was because of that duel, but the point is, people are not wrong. They're not being misogynistic or bigoted or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like, when they say that World of Warcraft's tone has changed over the years and like clearly the target audience has changed over the years. They're not being like hateful by saying that because it's an objective fact. Obviously, it's an objective fact, and obviously Blizzard is building the game around those groups of people that they feel swipe the credit card enough and make Blizzard more money. But here's the thing. Here's one thing, though, that has also really disturbed people about this article. And that's the fact that Blizzard seems to be in this mentality. I'd have to read for you guys the entire article. But, regarding like bringing the Warcraft IP to more people, Blizzard seems to be in this mentality of trying to make Warcraft and there's been like several examples of this in like interviews and videos and stuff where like Blizzard is trying to make World of Warcraft appeal to everybody. They're trying to make World of Warcraft a game that anybody can play, like, and they will find enjoyment in it. Whether you are some, college-aged liberal female undergrad that doesn't even know how to work a damn iPhone, or you're some dumb drooling Trump voter, or man, you're like some freaking sleepy Joe Biden voter, it don't matter. Like, everyone will find a place in Azeroth and everyone will find enjoyment. And people have pointed this out and have rightfully said, this is stupid. This is stupid, and this shows that Blizzard's marketing team, the people behind the scenes saying, oh, we got to make World of Warcraft appeal to everybody. These people have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Let me explain something to you, some marketing 101. You guys probably don't work in marketing, so let me explain how this works. The more niche of an audience that you can define, the better your product is going to be. Meaning, what you should do, what I was taught back in the day, and this is whether you have a product or like, you're doing like a form of entertainment, like let me give you some free YouTuber advice. Here you go. If you're making a serious YouTube channel, okay, and you're going to treat it like a business, like you actually want to make a living from it, first thing you want to do, here's what you do. You get a whiteboard, okay? And I want you to draw a picture of who is going to be watching your videos. Draw a picture to the best of your ability. Draw a picture. Is it a man or is it a woman? How old are they? What are they doing? If I like were to draw a picture of like let's say who was Blizzard marketing classic WoW 2 back in the day, I'd probably draw a picture of maybe a slightly overweight man, probably like in his 20s or something. He's probably got like probably has like a Metallica t-shirt on. Maybe he's like smoking a cigarette, some young dude that's just into like badass fantasy. You know, he plays D&D on the weekend. That's probably what he would be doing. He wouldn't be smoking a cigarette. He'd be rolling some dice, some D&D dice, and he'd be sitting at the table and he'd be like, man, I wish I could like play some like online role-playing game or some kind of cool role-playing game in between my D&D sessions. You know, maybe in his other hand, he's got a copy of The Lord of the Rings or something. Like, you know, this was the target audience. That guy was who World of Warcraft back in the day was being made for. The point is, when you create a product or you're providing a service or entertainment, whatever it is that you're doing, like, you need to understand who is your target audience, who is your target consumer, and the more accurately that you can define like that person, that individual, the more successful your product is going to be. And Blizzard is making, like, this is marketing, like, this is like a marketing sin 101. You never make a product that appeals to everybody. Never. And let me give you an example of a video game that came out recently that did this perfectly. They knew exactly who their target audience was. The game was filled with nothing but themes that their target audience was going to appreciate and to enjoy. And the game was incredibly successful because of it. It blew people's minds. You probably know what I'm talking about. Space Marine 2. Space Marine 2 came out recently, and very unapologetically, it was orientated towards young men and just men in general. It contained themes of brotherhood and honor and faith, like in the face of like great adversity. It showed war and how cool and badass war is, but also like how terrifying it can be, how destructive it can be. It had like the badass giant guns and bolters and armors and things and yada, yada, yada. The game barely had any female representation in it at all, like literally like next to none, other than like a few little female grunts running around on the ground, like that barely said anything. Like, the game knew exactly who its target audience was. They made it for that audience. They made it for that gamer. The game was incredible. It was incredibly successful. People fucking loved it. Even people that were not the target audience, they loved it. And you know why? Because the game, like when people look at something that is clearly made for a specific audience of people, it makes them just appreciate it more. Like, even if it's not made for them, it's like, oh, this is not for me, but I appreciate that. You know, I think that's cool that there is this like corner of the world or this thing that like this group of people can consume and enjoy, that maybe I don't enjoy it, but it's cool that like they are enjoying it. You know, it's shocking. Like you'll see like, oh, like Space Marine 2 is clearly, you know, geared towards men, and yet so many women play it. It's great. You know, it's almost like, you know, like a young lady can play Space Marine 2, and it's almost like she can kind of like appreciate like the masculine themes in it, like the brotherhood and whatnot. Come, rise, Titus. Your duty is not yet done. You know, duty ends only in death. You know, and women are like, well, you know what I mean? Like, so anyway, Space Marine 2 was a great example of like marketing done well, of a product that was made specifically for a single group of people, and it was incredibly successful because of it. You know, you watch the World of Warcraft main Midnight cinematic, and you see Lorthamar being this badass, you know, fighting against Xalatath. You can't even break one elf, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, this is supposed to like invoke that badass Warcraft vibe or whatever. But then, you know, a little while later, Blizzard drops a cinematic of some giggly like blood elf girl going around and decorating her home and being all silly, and it's cute, and it reminds you of an Overwatch cinematic or something. And you're just sitting there like, you know, all the dudes that just a second ago were like, yeah, fuck, Lorthamar kicks Xalatath's ass, bro. Now they're watching this new cinematic and they're like, dude, this is shit. This is stupid. Like, Blizzard doesn't even know who their target audience is with WoW, because they're trying to make it for everybody. And this is just a huge marketing sin. This is not what you're supposed to do. And it's something that is deeply concerning. So now, all of that said, I would like to address an elephant in the room that has been present in my comment sections for a very, very long time now. And that is the wokeness of World of Warcraft. I've already said it in this video, but all over my main Nixxiom channel and on this channel and all over social media and stuff, you will see so many people They will be leaving these comments talking about how World of Warcraft is just woke. It is just woke nonsense nowadays. And people have been asking me, like, what is my opinion on this? What do I think about it? As somebody who's been playing the game, since Warcraft 3, been playing World of Warcraft since 2005. Do I think that World of Warcraft is woke trash? And I'd like to share my thoughts on that with you all today. Now, I know that I'm kicking a hornet's nest by talking about this, and I know people are going to get really fired up in the comments section down below, because for some reason people can't have a mature conversation about this, but I'm going to talk about it. And it was necessary for me to talk about all that stuff before in this video for me to share with you all my opinion. So first and foremost, what the hell does the word woke even mean? Like, what does it mean? It's a very subjective term, because I don't feel like it's even been like properly defined. If you say, for example, that World of Warcraft has all this female empowerment stuff, like showing, women in like these, military positions or whatever, being like great warriors and blah, blah, blah in the modern game. And so therefore the game is woke. Well, then I have to then say, well, what about old Warcraft? I mean, like the Night Elves in Warcraft 3, like the primary, like the Night Elf military, as well as their whole government in the lore, is women. Like it's a matriarch society, bro. Like all the sentinels, on their saber cats, it's all ladies, and all the men, they're all like sleeping in the Emerald Dream lore wise back in the day of Warcraft 3 and classic WoW and stuff. If Blizzard was to release a new race to the game today, that is like the government is primarily women, the priest class, the people of the cloth is primarily women, like the Temple of Elune and stuff, and all the men are out sleeping on a couch somewhere, you would say that like, oh, well, this is just woke nonsense from Blizzard. But are you going to say the same thing about the Night Elves? Back in the early 2000s with Warcraft 3 and classic WoW and stuff, are you going to say the same thing? If you are being objective, then you should say the same thing, that you should say that World of Warcraft has kind of always been a little bit woke. If you were to say, oh, well, woke is like introducing like homosexual characters and transgender characters and stuff like that to the game, like that makes it woke. Okay, like fine, World of Warcraft didn't really have like a gay presence back in the day. It didn't really have a transgender presence back in the day. But let's move to the objective. Let's be a little bit logical about this. Like World of Warcraft doesn't really have that much gay or transgender representation in the game. Like it really doesn't. Now, it certainly has more than it did back in the day. Like no one's denying that. But like, having like two gay couples back in Dragonflight and like, two transgender characters like that Arbiter character from Shadowlands and Chromie, it's like, it's really not that much, so I mean, like, is just the presence of having a homosexual in the room, does that immediately make the room woke? I can't really answer the question of, oh, is World of Warcraft woke or is it not woke? Because in some ways I would say it always has been woke. And in other ways I would say like, okay, yeah, I guess it's woke, but like, is it really as big of a deal as people make it out to be? If you were to ask me the question, like, do you think that, Blizzard has changed the target audience of World of Warcraft? Are they like aiming the game more towards women, more towards liberally minded individuals, people that consider themselves like progressives and stuff like that in like society today? Do I think that World of Warcraft is aiming more at those people? Of course they are. I mean, and the reason why is because one, like it's the main reason. It's like those are the groups of people that play World of Warcraft that swipe the credit card the most. I already talked about it. These people are the ones that Blizzard is getting the most money out of. And so they are trying to make World of Warcraft as appealing as possible to those people, so that way Blizzard can get more money out of them. If you want World of Warcraft to return to some like Loktar Ogar, Blood and Honor, glory on the battlefield kind of vibe or whatever, like that sort of game, you need to swipe the credit card more than the freaking dude from Reddit who would like lose his mind if Anduin came out as transgender tomorrow. But the thing is, if that dude from Reddit who wants Anduin to come out as like transgender, if that dude keeps swiping his credit card like constantly over and over and over and giving Blizzard more and more money, guess what, motherfucker? Anduin's coming out as transgender in the next expansion. Because Blizzard doesn't fucking care about like your stupid ideology, like your stupid progressive ideology. Blizzard doesn't care about tradition. They don't care about progressivism. Blizzard doesn't care about the nuclear family. Blizzard doesn't care about homosexual representation. Blizzard doesn't give one single flying fuck about you, bro. And if you think that they do, you're an idiot. What Blizzard cares about is money. All right? And if the fucking woke nonsense, if the woke crowd is making Blizzard more money, then guess what, motherfucker? Blizzard's gonna make this game woke as shit. Because that's what Blizzard shareholders want. And that's just the way it is. I'll tell you what my biggest issue with World of Warcraft is. My biggest issue with the game is the fact that in the article, Blizzard talks about, they have a whole section in this article, a whole part of the interview, where Blizzard discusses how World of Warcraft's audience is aging. World of Warcraft's audience is getting older. And so therefore the game needs to change with the audience, they say. And they talk about systems, like, oh, well, the audience of today, their parents, their fathers and, wives and stuff. I'm a father myself, they're working these full-time jobs trying to provide for their families and stuff and blah, 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 blah. They don't have time, to play the game like they used to. And so we need to make the game more around them and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm nodding my head. But one thing that's interesting to me, which is a huge problem in my opinion, and it's such a curious problem, it's the fact that Blizzard and their writing did not age with their audience. This book right here that I held up earlier, Rise of the Horde. You want to know what this book is about? Let me tell you what it's about. Before the events of Warcraft 1, there were a bunch of orcs on a planet called Draenor. You might know it as Outland. And they're visited by the Burning Legion. And the Burning Legion corrupts them and fuels their fire for violence and, conflict, domination and stuff. The Burning Legion comes in and they corrupt the orcs, and the orcs then go on this great genocidal campaign against the Draenei peoples, attempting to wipe out every single man, woman, and child on Draenor. TBC, it comes out today. And when you go into Outland, let me show you something. You're going to go into Hellfire Peninsula, and you see this road right here? This road is called the Path of Glory. I want you, if you've never done this, I want you to zoom in your camera all the way, and I want you to look at the Path of Glory and tell me what you see. I'll tell you, you're going to see a road that is made up of nothing but skeletons. The decayed remains of all the Draenei men, women, and kids that the orcs slaughtered in their campaign to wipe them out as a people. That's what this book, Rise of the Horde, is about. That was a story that Blizzard wrote for 15-year-old boys. After the events of Warcraft 2, the orcs have been defeated after the Second War. The world has been, the orcs have, inflicted 2 great wars against the Alliance. Kingdoms have burned. Tons of people have died. The Dark Portal now has been destroyed. It's been deactivated. And the Alliance is put in this position of, well, what do we do with these people? These actual alien invaders from another planet, what do we do with these orcs? Well, Gilneas and Stromgarde and other kingdoms say, well, isn't the answer obvious? What we do with these orcs that have been defeated and have laid down their axes, isn't the answer of what to do with them obvious? Here's what you do with them, they proposed. You round up the orcs, you round up their warriors, you round up their wives, and you grab their children out of their cradles that are here on Azeroth, these strange aliens, and you kill them. Every single one of them, without prejudice, without mercy. These people could be bringing space smallpox onto Azeroth, and we're not even aware of it, they would say. And that's what they proposed. But the Alliance, other kingdoms in the Alliance, like Lordaeron, I'm making a whole video about this over on my Nixxiom channel for Tales of Warcraft. Lordaeron and some other Alliance kingdoms, they disagreed. And they said, no, we can't do that. We have to do, we're better than that. We are followers of the Holy Light. We are virtuous people where the orcs were not. They're just a bunch of savage tribalistic monsters, but, we are good, noble, men and women of the Alliance. So here's what we're going to do. we're going to do the merciful solution. We're going to show the orcs mercy. We're not going to kill them. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to round these people up by the thousands, or however many orcs there were left at this point. We're going to just round them up, and we're going to send them to these camps that we have constructed all across southern Lordaeron. These camps where like the orcs are going to live in horrible conditions. And they're going to be treated terribly. And what we're going to do is we're going to let them rot and die in those camps. That's what we're going to do with these people. That's the Alliance's version of mercy after the Second War. They're going to let the orcs chill out in those internment camps, and within like a generation or two, you know, the Alliance is going to stop them from reproducing, right? And they're just going to let them slowly just die out. The Alliance isn't going to kill them with the sword. They're going to let the slow decay of time, you know, wipe out the entire orcish race from Azeroth until their tusks fall out of their skulls. That was Warcraft lore after the events of Warcraft 2 going into Warcraft 3, before Thrall liberates the orcs from the internment camps. These are stories that were written for like young men, you know, like teenagers and stuff, you know, dudes in their 20s, like whatever. These stories that explored really dark things, really dark themes, as well as really dark moments in actual real history. And what led to like these sorts of choices being made, like what ultimately led to like these evils being committed. And keep in mind too, these are all playable races in World of Warcraft. These are not just, you know, some enemies that just exist out in Hillsbrad foothills or just wherever that like you interact with and you fight them because, you know, obviously they're so evil and stuff and they have to be stopped. These are characters or like races of people that you can play as in the game. A Draenei player can literally point at an orc player and say, look at what you did to my people. An orc player could point his finger at a human player and like, you know, if he's all enchanted and like immersed and stuff, he can say, look at what your people did to my people. You know, Night Elf can say, oh, you orcs killed Cenarius and stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like this, like these are playable races committing like these horrific acts against other playable races. Blizzard would never write something like this today. Blizzard would never write a piece of lore like this. They would never depict one of these heroic races of Azeroth, humans, blood elves, gnomes, dwarves, tauren, orcs, whatever. They would never depict them as a people doing something of like great unspeakable evil. They wouldn't do it. Imagine if Blizzard wrote a piece of lore today, like where, I don't know, the Blood Elves conquer Ironforge or something, and then they take all the dwarves, and like for whatever reason, the Blood Elves absolutely hate dwarves, and they throw the dwarves into like literal like internment camps, concentration camps or whatever, and are like committed to like wiping them out as a people off of the face of Azeroth. Blood Elves, a playable race in World of Warcraft. Blizzard would never do something like that. They would never like go within 10 feet of that. Because it's like, oh shit, you know, like, oh, I love the Blood Elves, but you're saying as a Blood Elf, like I support this, like, because Blizzard is afraid of that. Blizzard is afraid of showing that like these different peoples of Azeroth, even the peoples that you could play as in the game are, yes, they are capable of great heroism, like great acts of virtue, but they are also capable and susceptible to vice. They are capable of great acts of evil, of wrath, of cruelty. Let's look at Dragonflight, for example. In Dragonflight, you have the big red dragon has attacked the dream world, which is full of butterflies and cute animals, and he is threatening to burn it down, and then all the dragon aspects have to band together as a family, as they say in the conclusion cinematic. They have to band together as a family in order to defeat the big red dragon. You have that ending cinematic of Dragonflight, you know, and people rightfully just laugh at it. That ending cinematic, they're like, oh, we got to band together and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like the kind of writing that you would like present to like a toddler. You know, I would say it's even like, you know, like a child, like when a child's like 10 years old, you know, or something, maybe even a little bit younger, you start exposing them to fairy tales, bro. Like you start exposing them to stories where children are kidnapped, where they're eaten, where they're killed, like whatever. You know, fairy tales are dark, they're very grim, and you begin to introduce them to like this very kind of terrifying, uncomfortable side of life. And the thing is, like the writing of Dragonflight, and I'm just using this as one example, but I can do others. You know, it's something like you wouldn't even like show to like a toddler. Or to like a young kid, like, you know, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old. It's like the kind of like writing you would give to like a 5-year-old or like a 7-year-old. You know, oh, the big dragon's coming. We have to defeat him before he destroys the dream world. You know, like it's silly. It's childish. You know, where like World of Warcraft, as the years went on, the game, like the writing of the game should have matured. It should have become darker. It should have become more thought-provoking. Like World of Warcraft is a fantastic IP that established some really incredible themes that like Blizzard's writing team could have explored over the years. Like, you know, oh, like the orcs have their big honor culture, for example. Well, there are plenty of stories throughout history, like myths and folklore and whatnot, and the binding of the Fenris wolf and stuff that demonstrate like, hey, honor is a very complex thing. Honor is complicated. You know, and sometimes what is honorable is not always so obvious. Blizzard could have had stories like that. You know, Blizzard could have had stories where like great moments of betrayal or shock. I mean, imagine like a story where Anduin, he's marrying the princess of Gilneas or something. And we've already established that like, you know, the Stormwind nobles are corrupt, right? We've already established that since classic WoW. Imagine like there's a red wedding moment, like from Game of Thrones in World of Warcraft, where Anduin and his would or soon to be wife, who's pregnant with his kid, they're at some like dinner feast that the Stormwind nobles are hosting, and the nobles fucking kill them. They slaughter them, like, you know, at dinner. There's a total red wedding moment that leaves people just in utter shock. Like World of Warcraft's writing, point is, it should have matured. Blizzard could have done so much with like, even like, you know, the orcs and the Draenei, they occupy the same space on Azeroth right now. And yet there was that huge conflict between them back on Draenor. You know, like Blizzard could have explored further, you know, what is the Draenei's relationship to the orcs right now? What is the orcs' relationship to the Draenei? Do the orcs still hate them and want to kill them? Do the Draenei, like, despite all their, like, imagine a story where you have a Draenei who, like, he witnessed the horrors of what happened on Draenor, and yet the tenets of the Holy Light are trying to teach him to forgive and to move on and to see the orcs as like possessing some sort of dignity, and he just cannot do it. Like he knows like, oh, this is a teaching of like the Holy Light or whatever, but he can't do it because he's like, dude, like you weren't there, and you show like, you know, that sort of conflict, which is a very real thing. Things like that happen in real life with real people. My big issue with World of Warcraft, gentlemen, is not that like Blizzard put gay people into the story. Okay, there are some fantastic like stories that have been told, you know, in video games that I absolutely love that feature homosexual characters. First one that comes to mind, it's the one quest that always stands out to me from The Witcher 3. There's it's right in the beginning. There's that one guy, and you know, he's been like exiled outside of town, and you encounter him as Geralt, and you learn that the dude's a monster. He's like, oh, I'm a monster, and I've been kicked out of like the village because of it, you know, blah blah blah, like stay away from me. You know, you go through like this whole mission to help this guy because he's a monster, right? He's a freaking monster, and so Geralt's like, well, I'm gonna help you. And then like you go through this whole mission with this guy, and then you realize, oh, this guy's gay. Like he's not a Wendigo or something. He's not like a giant bug, you know, like in human skin, or like some sort of demon that like a witcher would actually kill. The dude's gay, and his village looked down on him for it because of like what he struggled with, you know, his temptations and blah blah blah. And he views himself as a monster now because of it, because he's been driven out and he's like fallen into a deep despair. Such a fantastic story. So my issue is not, you know, the introduction of like gay characters and transgender characters and stuff. My issue is that Blizzard's writing is so like childish. It's so ass. It didn't age with its audience the way that the game allegedly did, you know, with its systems and stuff. And it's just so disappointing to me. It's so disappointing, and it's frustrating because I would have loved to have seen like a darker, grittier, more mature themed World of Warcraft as the expansions went on. And it is disappointing for me because I wish Blizzard would actually find a proper target audience, not the, oh, let's make a game that's appealing to everybody. Let's find an actual very specific kind of person that we're making this game for. And, you know, preferably it would be like the older version of the target audience back in 2004 to like 2007. You know, let's focus on making a game like that for them. These people are now like in their 30s now, so let's make our world, our Warcraft universe, a series of stories and characters and events and conflicts that like a 30-year-old man would actually appreciate and be enchanted by and be entranced by. Let's have the heavy stuff in there. Let's make World of Warcraft a bit more dark, more grim. And I mean, that's my big issue, fellas. When I see these like cinematics of like, you know, some blood elf girl like giggling and being silly and doing like, you know, little TikTok dances and stuff after getting loot and all that crap, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. You know, when I see like the conflict between like the void and the light in Midnight, dude, I just read Children of Hurin, and like Tolkien explores like the nature of good versus the nature of evil in that book, and it's so fantastic. And like you compare like for me, like I compare like that level of writing compared to like what Blizzard is doing with the void and the light in World of Warcraft Midnight, and it's so pathetic by comparison. It's amateur, like it is beneath amateur. You guys will see, like once you get into like the beta and the alpha, like it's so stupid. Like, or it's not stupid. It's just it's not what it could be. You know, it's not what it could be. So I think I've ranted for long enough, though. I think this video is long enough. I do appreciate y'all watching. But ending on a positive note, everybody, TBC is out as of today. Or rather, it's coming out, I think, in a few hours. I'm not sure if the portal is open yet. It probably is, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter because right now I'm only level 33. I just dinged. And I actually wasn't ever intending to play TBC. So I kind of started a little bit late. I'm pretty far behind you guys, but I'll be level 58 soon enough on this guy. I'll be stepping through the dark portal. I've returned to streaming recently, twitch.tv/Nixxiom. You guys are always free to, you know, come into my stream and hang out and, you know, I don't know, critique something that I've said and have a conversation. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you come into my stream or you leave a comment and you say, Nixxiom, I disagree, you're stupid. I don't give a shit, bro. So feel free to disagree. Feel free to share your thoughts. I highly encourage you guys to do so because at the end of the day, whether it's me or you, you know, even if you completely disagree with everything that I've said, dude, we're both on the same team at the end of the day. We want World of Warcraft to be the best game possible. We want Blizzard to do well. We want what is good for that which we love, and that is the Warcraft universe. And maybe we have a different perspective of like what that, you know, what that good is that we are willing to World of Warcraft and to Blizzard and stuff, but we're both on the same team at the end of the day, and that's where we can have like a good and reasonable discussion. So feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, and I guess soon enough I will see you all in Outland. That's right.